It's okay, and it's fine now.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, much better, much
Nice to hear from you, though. I don't do that.
better. Okay, it's 6:30, so I'm gonna call this to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the Union City Community Schools Board Meeting. Our meeting agenda is available for you to follow. The expectation for our board meeting is to follow this agenda closely. We operate under the Open Meetings Act and utilize Robert's Rules of Order to govern our discussion and decision-making process. This is an opportunity, or there is an opportunity for public comment, I can't talk tonight, during our set agenda. We welcome the public to express their opinions during this time of our agenda. If there are questions about the agenda or the board meeting process, please seek out one of the board members for clarification. Do we have any addition or deletion of items to the agenda? No? Okay, we'll move on. Consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Boy, I didn't even get my words out. All right, we have a motion.
What do I say?
Support.
Support.
Sorry, we're all a little discombobulated today. Discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion is carried. We will move on now to correspondence. Do we have any correspondence this evening?
None that I'm aware of.
All right. Move on now to comments from the audience on agenda items. This is the section of the meeting in which the public may make comments or share their opinions about items on the agenda. We ask you to limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes per person to allow others the opportunity to speak. This is an opportunity for the board to listen to your concerns. It is not board practice to act on the concerns voiced during this meeting to allow for the board to do further research. Do we have any comments at this time? No? All right. On to action items. Financials. Board action is required to approve the financials for the month ending September 30th, 2024.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion?
I don't like to do this, Sarah, so I'm gonna do it anyway, though, because I don't have a chance to look at it early. I appreciate, first of all, that you highlighted and wrote down at the bottom.
Oh.
You already you answered one of the questions before I asked it, so very good. I shouldn't point that through, sorry. Apologies. Very good. No comment. One question I did have, though, it seemed like the general administration was I know central support. One of them has like a bunch of software, and we kind of front load the budget with things at the beginning of the year. I think that's central support, if I remember right. But it seemed like GA was higher than normal, so just curious if you, before the next meeting, if you can get back to us on maybe what some of the higher items were on that, why it's running ahead of schedule. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same, and the motion carries. We'll move on now to elementary paraprofessional hiring. Board action is required to approve the hiring of Tina Scheidler as an elementary paraprofessional. I'll entertain a motion for the same.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion carries. Coaching recommendations. Board action is required to approve the coaching recommendations as presented. I will entertain a motion for the same.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion carries. Neola Title IX policy updates. Second reading and board action is required to approve the Title IX policy updates as presented. I will entertain a motion for the same.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion?
Yes. These changes are being made, or this policy is being created because of state law, so we're complying with state law. Some parents of some students in the district came to me with some concerns about this policy, and quite frankly I have similar concerns about the policy, but a lot of it is left up to interpretation. It's not extremely clear, and as a matter of fact, I believe, it's my understanding, there's litigation currently going on about the policy. And so, for that reason, I thought about maybe just, let's table this because let's wait until the litigation's done before we change our policy and have to change it back. But after talking to a few different people, including Mr. Katz, who talked to our council, because it is current state law, it makes the most sense for the state school to comply with the state law. So for that reason, I do believe that it makes sense to approve instead of table it or reject it. I just don't think that saying no to the entire policy is the wisest thing for us to do publicly. So that's my 2 cents on the whole thing.
I agree. Same way.
I do believe that we also have board policy that's based on this policy or board policy.
We have a current policy,
Yes,
yes.
so we would also have to change
Correct.
current board policy as well if we did not approve of it.
Yeah, and after considering it for a while, I don't think it's the wisest decision to do that this time. And I'd be happy to explain my position to anyone outside the meeting instead of taking 20 minutes to do so, but that's the cliff notes.
The same for me. I do have a question kind of regarding this. So at the elementary school, I know there, maybe a year before last, there was a student in this discussion would apply, and there is the restroom by the cafeteria that is a unisex restroom, and that was utilized for that student. Do we have unisex restrooms in the middle school and the high school?
Each building
Okay.
has unisex restrooms, yes.
That was my question. That's my opinion. That's the answer.
My question I had was I see that James is one of our Title IX people that's listed in the document that we had to read, so
Oh, yeah.
with him gone, is it just Jamie?
Well,
Patrick.
Patrick?
But
Okay,
I brought it up before. I thought you were going to take it out and just put like the
Yeah.
generic.
We,
I didn't look at it this time.
the new one has it taken out.
Oh,
Yes.
maybe
What I
I
didn't
looked
do
at the
is go
old
back
one.
and, what I
Yes, the
didn't
old
do is
policy.
go
Okay.
back to the old one
July.
and take it out.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
Person
okay.
before.
I read both of them, and I wasn't, I
The
didn't
new one
realize
just
that
has,
one was
the new one just has positions in it
Correct.
Because
now.
the old one is
Okay.
going to.
It just says the Title IX coordinators, all it
Gotcha.
says. It doesn't say, it doesn't have a specific person's name, and they're recommending that we go through and do that for everything,
yeah.
all of our documents that have
That's a
names,
good
because
idea.
there are names in other policies. I've found names of people that haven't been here in quite a while.
Yeah.
So,
So that other one will sunset or just be there in case something is brought up?
you can expect I'll be coming to you with an update to fix all of those names.
No, I guess what I'm saying is there like a statute of limitations
Oh.
on when this can, because this is, the old policy is no longer current, but it applies if something.
It applies
happened
if there's a
before.
complaint about something that took place prior to August 1st.
Correct.
And I think complaints have to be filed within, is it a year? I'm not sure what the time frame is. I'd have to check with the attorney.
Then you would just let that policy die or do we
That
cancel
policy
it?
eventually, we can go in and take that policy out eventually. Yes. I don't foresee anything coming up under that policy, to be honest with you. I'm not aware of anything outstanding that might get brought back to us at this point. So,
Any other discussion?
If there's litigation on this and they do change things, do we have to do this again? As far as, is the policy gonna change?
it depends on what happens in the litigation. If what happens is what's happened in the other states, because I know I've been told there's a suit that's been filed in like 20 some states. They have injunctions that have prevented it implementing. So if we get an injunction, it basically means we won't be able to implement these policies. And so we would operate under the old policies at that point. We actually prefer the new policies as far as because the bulk of it is about how you handle things, how you handle the complaints. The old policies were, and I say old, they've only been in effect for 3 years. Trump changed those, and now the Biden administration's changed them back. So, but it takes them like 4 years to get them through to change it. So depending on who gets elected, they might
So you're
change
always gonna
again.
go back and forth.
It might change again in 4 years, but under the new policies, it makes it easier to take a complaint and investigate it and then deal with, it's a little simpler process than the ones we've been using. So injunction wise, if there is an injunction in place, we would go back to the previous ones. If the court cases are resolved to the Supreme Court rules, then like all of these things, we will wait for our attorneys to advise us on what it means. Every time something like this happens, Trune is very good about notifying us, this is what this means and this is what you need to do, which is one reason I'm just gonna bring it up while we're talking about policies, etc. I have done quite a bit of looking at and talking to Trune about their policies. Up until a few years ago, Neola was pretty much the only company that had policies available for Michigan schools. Neola is actually based in Ohio, I'm told. Trune, for the last 4 or 5 years, does offer a set of policies to schools to use that they sell, similar to how Neola does. And some schools around us have made the switch. There are others that are considering it, and I would really like the board to consider that as an option. So I'm going to be bringing that to you because it makes a lot of sense to me to have our attorneys writing our policies so that when we get information from the attorneys, we don't have to then interpret it based on what we have from Neola. We're actually getting it from the lawyers that wrote our actual policies, which to me is a much better situation to be in. But that's really how we would operate is any court case, any change, it's whatever the attorneys will tell us. That's what I will bring to you.
Is there a cost associated with that?
Each company, there's a cost. We pay Neola. Trune has their costs. They're very similar in terms of costs for the policies themselves. But I won't get into all these. I think there are some advantages to it, but when I'm ready to bring that to the board, I'll have more information for you then about what it would mean. So.
Any other discussion regarding the policy updates? Seeing none, all those in favor please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed the same. Motion carries. We'll move on now to discussion items. Clean Bus Rebate Program.
So I shared information with you. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the website for this grant program. It's this one's through the EPA. I know that a couple of years ago we talked about a grant program that was for electric buses. This particular program would allow us to purchase either electric or natural gas or propane buses and get rebates from the government that would essentially pay for the cost of the buses. Before there was the board a couple years ago had some negative reaction to the idea of electric buses, and I thought before I go down the road of going through an application process and getting things put together, I wanted to get feedback from all of you on how you feel about either electric or propane at this point in time.
I did look at it. So do we have any buses that are 2010 and older?
Yeah.
Oh yes,
We have quite a few.
yes.
Okay, so we would have to. Those are only eligible for propane and natural gas, correct? 2010 and older.
I think all three were qualified for 2010 and older.
Because from what
Yeah.
if I looked at it wrong, anything 2011 and newer is not. You cannot do propane or natural gas. It has to be electric.
Okay.
That's what I saw. I don't know if I'm wrong on that.
That may be correct. Yes.
It's a conversion, it's not a replacement.
No, it's brand
It's
new.
replacement new.
So,
It's
you have-
brand new buses.
so I want to buy a new bus. Why does it matter what my old bus is?
What?
You said it's
2010 or older.
It has to be 2010 or older to
So
get
qualify for the
propane or natural gas or electric. If you're 2011 or newer, you can
So
only
we have
get
to
electric.
buy a 2010 bus, you're saying?
No.
No, if.
Your
No, if we
current
had
fleet.
one
Your
at
fleet.
That's what I'm saying, why does it matter if our current fleet is, we're
It's
buying
just
a
the
new bus?
criteria of the grant.
It's
I don't
required
know.
to,
Just
yeah,
the
I don't,
same
it's federal
criteria.
government.
It's government, right?
They are pushing, they are,
Get the
there's
OCD
no
electric
doubt they're
probably.
pushing electric.
Yeah, they're probably pushing the electric.
There's no doubt they're pushing electric.
It's just
Well-
all the strings attached, I guess I don't.
I'll be, I haven't gotten in too far into the weeds on it at all. I've read some of the basic parts of it, and I thought, okay, last time I started down this road, I did quite a bit of legwork, and then I got to the board, and the board said, no, we don't want electric buses. So I thought, before I do any big work on this, like calling the companies, getting companies involved, and getting all that kind of stuff together, I would ask the board how you feel about either or before I do anything.
When I saw the propane and the natural gas, I was like, yeah, we can try those. Then I see all the strings attached and the terms, and you have to have this bus and this bus, like, wow.
Personally, no, go ahead.
I'll be much more comfortable with a natural gas or propane bus than an electric bus. Just due to the, the charging stations, the other extra things that we don't currently have that we'd have to put in place, and the ability to refuel it other places. I mean, you can buy, there's stations where you can buy natural gas, etc. And it would be nice to have natural gas because we could just plumb it right there and just never have to get a refill
What
versus
was
propane.
confusing too is is it like a fire, or not fire, but a fuel burning heating system for the electric buses that you can have on those?
Oh, to heat the bus, to
Yeah,
to
like a
provide
pizza
heat
tower
for the
or
bus.
something like that,
bizarre,
yeah.
because now we're going electric, but now we have to provide fuel and heaters for electric buses. The I forgot what I was gonna say. It was with the 2011 on up, just being electric. I'm sorry, I lost my thought here.
How many do we know, rough estimate, how many buses do we have that are 2010 and older?
I think probably 2 or 3.
Okay. Have you talked to Homer in the past 6 months?
I haven't talked to them in the past 6 months. I've talked to them previously. I've talked to their
Okay.
superintendent at middle of last year. He's thrilled with them. He loves the electric buses.
I was gonna say,
I talked to Deb and asked Deb to reach out to Homer's transportation person and go over and visit and see what that person has to say. But as far as their superintendent, he's thrilled with them. As far as myself personally,
Did he say why?
they were free.
Okay.
That'd be a big one.
They work. They haven't had problems with them according to him.
Yeah, I'd like to see the maintenance.
And that's the basic thing. And I'll be honest with you. They're free. The charging infrastructure is free.
yeah.
They install all that for free, and they provide the buses for free. To me, if somebody's going to give me a fleet of 10 brand new buses, and they're all going to work, and they're going to be free, and the fuel ends up, at least in the propane one, I know the fuel is cheaper. They say it's cheaper in electric too. Could be. Our village rates are pretty good. But I know that the propane ones run about 40% savings on over diesel fuel. There aren't the fumes and all the nastiness that we get with the diesel. That is something else. But I go back to the free. And if we use them for 10 years and we don't like them, guess what? We don't have to buy them again. We can go back and buy diesel ones if we want to.
Oh,
But if somebody's going to give me a free bus, I don't know why I wouldn't take it.
was it the 2011 and newer that we could sell those buses and not scrap them? Is that correct?
I don't remember. Honestly, you got more into the details than I did.
But I thought that's what it said.
Each,
Either
their
2010.
programs are different.
I mean, this
so.
looks like a better program than the last
Only
one
if
we
you
looked
had
at.
no older than 2012.
Yeah, you had to have. It was
2010
There's so many
buses.
different
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
on there. But I think the propane and natural gas, it makes sense to me instead of going all electric. But that's just my opinion.
I don't see. Yeah.
Well, we can only do 3 of those though, right? 2010 and older.
Yeah.
We could do propane or
You
Yeah,
can qualify.
yes.
You can
Yeah.
choose all three of those, yeah.
I'm more looking for just, do you,
I would
you know,
recommend-
how
I
would
think
you
we try to
feel?
get free buses.
If they
One
came
time.
back and said, all you can do is
Electric,
electric,
yeah.
are you telling me you don't want them even if that's
No.
all we
No.
can do?
No.
I feel like it's a no-brainer if we can get free buses
Because-
and free infrastructure to charge them. I think we should do it.
They have different, the batteries in them have different levels in terms of miles they can go. And, you can get them anywhere from like 110 to like 155 mile battery in the buses. All of our routes are well below the amount of miles that any of them can go, all of our regular routes. Of course, if we're gonna take a bus and go to Lansing or wherever, we would not
Sand
take one of
Creek.
those buses. We would have one of an older, either diesel bus or we'd have a propane for that. If they said, yes, you can do this, I would not get 10 electric. I would get enough electric to do our local routes and then get propane for the other things. So we would always have buses available for any trip that might be longer. But I just don't see the downside of when they're paying for everything.
The only downside I see is in 3 or 4 years, what happens when the battery is just trash? What's the battery gonna cost for replacement? Or are we looking at new buses at that point?
Well,
Or do they guarantee the battery for
Yeah.
a certain number of years?
and those are details I will have to find
Yeah.
out, but my guess is even if I have to replace a battery, it's a lot cheaper than a bus. The diesel buses went from being, when we first ordered buses, the first buses we ordered when I was superintendent were like $85,000 a piece.
I was gonna say 85.
And when we
88,
went back to
something like
order
that.
the last ones, which was just a couple years later, they were $130,000 a piece.
Yeah.
So when a bus is costing me $130,000, and that was when we last looked, I don't remember, which is why we bought 2 used buses last time.
Right.
If a new diesel bus is gonna cost me that much money, I'll take a new free electric bus, and if I gotta buy a battery in 5 years, I'll buy a battery. Cause the bus was free, you know?
Look at state data in Stockbridge and Three Rivers, and they probably have similar school systems and routes to us. Stockbridge got over $800,000 in free buses. I mean, that's
It's a lot of money.
substantial.
Yeah.
Whether it's electric or not, we don't really love it, or if it doesn't apply to us. These are large sums of money and a lot of buses for our fleet.
Come on, Darren.
My government bothers me.
I'm still
They're
having
gonna
a
throw
hard time.
millions and millions of dollars at things.
Grand Rapids got $5.1
That's our money.
million
Yeah.
of
But you know
buses,
what,
so-
Darren, if they're throwing it out,
Catch
Why
up.
don't we catch
We
up?
might as well get some of it
As a
back.
I'm not
community,
arguing, I'm not arguing the fact
our
that-
taxpayers paid it, shouldn't we?
I'm not arguing the fact that if they're giving free buses, we would be silly not to look into it for sure. 100%
Okay.
agree. And whether they're electric or run on, garbage or I don't care what it is.
Fairy dust.
If they're free, that's hard to say no to. Assuming there's no weird strings attached that we have to report this, that, and the other thing, and
Okay.
it takes manpower to do that, or we have a
Well,
explosion.
the applications are due by the 1st of January, so I will plan to have information to you back, likely at the December meeting.
I think
I'm
questions
just
are
telling
open
you that
November.
if we got free buses, I would prefer to have a natural gas bus over an electric bus, and I can explain why later, but I'm not opposed to electric entirely if it's free.
Okay.
Well, I think last time we looked at it, we also had to think about the way that it was gonna be charged and stuff like that, and that was additional funds
The,
and,
the
that's why we
charging
were like-
stations were a little, were extra on the
Yeah.
last one.
They're
We-
substantial. I've built some there. They're
Yeah.
substantial.
And
And
this,
we
but
were
with
like,
this
no.
grant, they say the charging stations are included.
I think as long as everything's included, that sounds
Now,
like
is there a
a good deal.
difference between the grant and the rebate? So we have to come up with the money first and then get reimbursed?
You're asking a detail I haven't gotten into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to
I was
have
trying
at
to
least
just-
5 years.
So I don't,
We have to have the buses for at least 5 years.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to
Oh,
dominate
okay.
tonight, but I've been a very strong proponent for
Before
not
we-
renting buses. That was,
Sure.
or renting that
That's a
service
really
out
good
that was
question.
proposed to us by the previous
Well,
superintendent.
rebate
and I
has to
was
come back.
pretty adamant against that. So I've been pushing for us to buy buses, and I've been saying, rah, when we do it, if we can get them for free, I have a hard time saying no to that.
Okay. All right.
Sounds like full
I
speed
will be
ahead.
making my contacts and I'll have something for you by December. Okay?
Cool.
I think I did read something where like they would close the window on questions sometime in November. It's kind of odd, but
It's government.
Yeah.
They're odd.
All right. Next is information item, which is annual school audit update.
Well, Sarah gave you a memo. I
Yep.
wanted her to provide that since they didn't have the final ready to report this month. But you can see that the fund balance has increased, which is always great news. So we finished the year at a surplus.
So will they be
Yay.
reporting that in November?
Yes,
Will we have it back by
Well,
November?
we'll have it back by November.
Or
They
December?
have to, cause I have to have the FID done by November 1st.
Oh, okay.
Would you like
They
the
better.
auditor? Last year, did the auditor come speak, or
They
did
did
you
not,
just speak?
but I
I think
can
they
ask
did.
her to come or if you'd like her to come.
If you'd like the auditor to come, we can ask them if they will come. If you don't care, we can just provide you a copy of the audit when you get it.
As long
I don't think it's necessary.
as long as the
for them
report
to
makes
come.
sense and isn't defamatory or some.
And she normally provides me like a presentation of information to kinda like, point out.
Yeah,
I think that'll be fine.
Okay.
Sounds good.
okay.
We're happy with Sarah.
It'll be your time to shine. All right, next is public comment. This is a section of the meeting in which the public may make comments or share their opinions about Union City Community Schools. We ask you to limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes per person to allow others the opportunity to speak. This is an opportunity for the board to listen to your concerns. It is not board practice to act on the concerns voiced during this meeting to allow for the board to do further research. Do we have any comments at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on now to an additional action item, which is a closed session. And I would entertain a motion to go into closed session at this time.
Support.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion carried. We will go into closed session. There will only be one thing to vote on when we come back, and board roundtable. You're welcome to stay until that time, or you can consider yourself all set.
You guys can.